Would you believe me if I told you that America is currently facing one of the most deadly epidemics in its history as we speak? This epidemic is hiding right under everyone's nose and is normalized in many movies, television shows, song lyrics, and social media platforms. It is so concealed that many people who survive it are unaware that it was even the cause for their near-death experience. Fentanyl is an opioid drug, which means it affects opioid receptors in the human brains to decrease pain and increase serotonin. I know you're probably thinking, that sounds like any other medical drug used for medical practice. What makes it so special? Well, fentanyl is almost 100 times stronger than morphine and almost 50 times stronger than heroin, which makes it one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful opioid in the entire world. Because of its strength, it is very addictive and extremely small amounts can result in death. In the United States, we are experiencing 200 deaths a day caused by fentanyl. Let's dive into how we got to this point and what we can do to help. Fentanyl was developed in the 1960s by Paul Janssen for the main purpose of anesthesia and severe pain relief. Initially, it was used for patients going into surgery and for patients with chronic disorders that cause severe pain. Recently, cancer patients began using fentanyl to manage their pain. Over time, many pharmaceutical companies began developing different forms of the drug, and it was being used in hospitals all over the world. In the last 10 years, fentanyl overdose rates in the public began to rise. This leads me to my next point, which is how fentanyl got onto our streets. Criminal organizations began manufacturing illicit fentanyl and mixing it with other drugs such as heroin, cocaine, and fake prescription pills. By using fentanyl in their illegal substances, it makes their products more addictive and ultimately brings them more revenue. According to Fentanyl and the U.S. Opioid Epidemic, written in 2023, among U.S. drug overdoses in the year 2021, fentanyl was the top killer for all regions of the country and all age, race, and ethnic groups. Ingesting fentanyl in any amounts not prescribed by a doctor or fentanyl that was synthetically made can make it even more deadly. This chart provides a great example of just how bad the current fentanyl epidemic in the United States is. The red line states synthetic opioids, mostly fentanyl. By looking at the chart, you can see the red line skyrocket from 2005 to 2020. In the year 2020, the red line surpasses 70,000 deaths, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Fentanyl's extreme strength makes it highly addictive. It can be made into powders, pills, eye drops, nasal sprays, and to even replicate candies. Humans cannot taste, smell, or see fentanyl. Like many other opioids, incorrect dosing of this drug can result in respiratory depression, which is lethal. Long-term effects of fentanyl include, but are not limited to, a lower pain tolerance, nausea, vomiting, constipation, immune system suppression, migraines, dizziness, vertigo, confusion, and hallucinations. Fentanyl withdrawal symptoms include, but are not limited to, muscle and bone pain, sleep issues, diarrhea, vomiting, cold flashes, uncontrollable leg movements, and severe cravings. It's important to know the signs and symptoms of fentanyl use as well as the withdrawal symptoms. That way you can help someone in need. Because of fentanyl's ability to disguise itself as any other drug available on the market, many people are unaware that they have even ingested it, let alone have become addicted to it. The picture next to me shows the legal dose of fentanyl, and I think it's important to point this out because taking even the slightest amount more than this can result in death. It really puts into perspective how strong and addictive this drug actually is. Although the entire public is at risk of fentanyl poisoning, it is important to point out the groups more vulnerable than others. The first being those who routinely use illegal drugs. I'd first like to mention that doing illegal drugs in any capacity is definitely not okay and should not be a normalized activity. That does not mean that those currently struggling with addiction deserve to be poisoned by fentanyl. Because of fentanyl's cheap price, ability to look like any other drug, and highly addictive components, many drug users ingesting it have no idea. Studies estimated that in 2016, almost half of the United States overdoses were opioid deaths related to fentanyl. According to the article, Fentanyl Contamination as a Risk Priority, the Impact of the Fentanyl Epidemic on Club Drug Using Behaviors, written by Nick Cristiano in 2022. Even though the fentanyl epidemic mostly concerns those who use illegal opioids, people who use club drugs have nonetheless come to accept fentanyl contamination as an important risk that they must manage. Just because someone only may be participating in illegal drug use at festivals, clubs, or events, it does not mean that they are not at risk. Chronic pain patients are also at risk for fentanyl contamination as well as fentanyl addiction. Being prescribed this drug to help with chronic pain is not uncommon, but it is also not uncommon to become addicted to its rewarding effects. It's important to remember that if prescribed, fentanyl should only be taken the exact way the doctor has prescribed it. Finally, website titled Natural High published a piece about the risks of fentanyl poisoning to teens in 2022 that stated, according to a recent article in the New York Post, the deadly drug has been found in vape pens on high school campuses in recent months. Officials have a growing concern that middle school, high school, and college-aged kids are being targeted as criminals make fentanyl pills disguised as oxycodone, Adderall, and Xanax. Children and teenagers who may be experiencing with drugs or just trying them out for a first-time use are a very at-risk population. Remember, one single dose can be lethal. I have included this news article published in the last month to emphasize how local this epidemic really is. As seen in the photo, 5 people in the last 6 months have been charged in my hometown, right outside of Buffalo, for selling fentanyl that caused death or injury. So if you think that your neighborhood or community isn't being affected, it really is. Now that we have discussed the drug, its effects, and who is at risk, we must talk about the treatment and prevention options available. For drug users or those who occasionally partake in drug usage, the first option should always be abstinence from drugs and/or getting treatment at a rehabilitation center. This, however, may not be an option for some people due to financial or personal reasons. If you have a family member or a friend that is using drugs or considering to use drugs, encourage them to get the help they need and support their healing process. You should also provide them with fentanyl test strips since we know some people are going to use drugs if they are addicted. Addiction is a disease and it is an extremely hard one to shake, so telling a drug user to just quit isn't going to always work. Another prevention method that lawmakers and medical staff can take is decreasing the amount of fentanyl being prescribed to people. The effects of this drug can be amazing for chronic pain patients, however, it can also be very harmful if taken the wrong way. Patients prescribed this drug should only be given a very small amount, and the goal should be eventually to ease them off of the drug completely. Safe injection sites are a controversial form of prevention, but I believe they are an important one. Injection sites provide real medical drugs to drug users in a supervised fashion with the end goal of terminating the drug use altogether. Each time the user goes, they are injected with less and less of the drug until eventually they are completely clean of it. These sites are currently being used in Canada, Australia, and other parts of Europe and have shown significant improvements in the amount of people using illegal drugs. The United States, however, has not fully taken to this injection site plan yet. I mentioned Narcan above, and I believe that everyone should also have a Narcan nasal spray with them. Narcan can reverse the effects of an overdose and ultimately save someone's life. I encourage everybody to screenshot or save the photo next to me, since it shows how to use Narcan in a situation where somebody is potentially overdosing. The good thing about Narcan is that even if you're not sure if the person is overdosing, it won't have any adverse effects if they're not overdosing. The ongoing fentanyl crisis in the United States is a pressing issue that is affecting our community and populations across America every single day. Understanding fentanyl's powerful effects and abilities is crucial when discussing its impact on our country. Becoming educated on preventions and treatments while advocating for new laws and policies, we can fight this battle together. We need to put an end to fentanyl addiction, contamination, and poisoning once and for all. Thank you.